Today, we take a trip back in time to the birthplace of American amusement parks, discuss its groundbreaking, bizarre, and extremely dangerous history, taste test the world's most famous hot dog, and then watch as I get my ass handed to me on a nearly 100-year-old roller coaster. What history books have referred to as America's Playground, Electric Eden, or by some weirdo in the 1880s, Sodom by the Sea. This is the legendary Coney Island. For those who happen to not know what Coney Island is, this is pretty much the spiritual birthplace of theme parks in the United States. And even today, you'll be surprised to find out that there's still so much going on here, just obviously a little bit different. Coney Island, located at the southernmost tip of Brooklyn, New York, gained popularity in the late 1800s for what at the time was the largest amusement parks in the United States. I say parks plural because this boardwalk was not just home to one, but three major parks, all competing for the attention of young, eager parkgoers. And the rivalry between these parks was no joke. More on that later. It wasn't all blackmail and arson. A huge positive to come out of this blood feud between the parks was the fact that they pushed each other to invent so many attractions that we know today. Like what is widely considered the first ever roller coaster to open in the United States, the Switchback Railway, which was a ride that used gravity to propel riders on two sets of parallel tracks, traveled at an average speed of 6 miles per hour, and only cost riders a nickel. This ride had no restraints whatsoever. After all, seatbelts weren't invented until the year following its opening in 1884. Funny enough, the ride itself is located in roughly the same spot that another historic roller coaster sits today. Our very first ride of the day here at Coney Island has to be none other than the Cyclone, one of the world's oldest roller coasters in existence, nearly 100 years old at this point. I'm assuming they've done a little bit of refurb in those 100 years. I'm kind of scared. I'm not the biggest fan of wood coasters, especially the super rickety ones, but you have to do it. You have to do it. Built in 1927, this near 100-year-old coaster stands as a monument of Coney Island's past and present. I will say in advance, apologies for the curse words. I'm going to bleep out whatever I can.
These seats are pretty padded, but this is not a couch. Oh.
Granted, the coaster, its track, and supports have all been refurbed and likely replaced over time, but even after nearly 100 years, this ride still rocks.
Hi!
That was actually not that rough of a ride. I was sliding all over the place back and forth.
Sliding all over. Whoa!
So I've ridden my fair amount of wood coasters in the past, and this one was actually not as rough as other coasters that I've been on. I know the Viper at Six Flags Great America was far more rough. May I say, I know not a wood coaster, but Big Thunder Mountain was rougher than this. You do slide a lot in here, but it wasn't so bad. The Cyclone and Switchback Railway were not the only groundbreaking coasters to exist at Coney Island. So let us take a second to pay respects to our fallen brothers. Flip Flap Railway, the world's first looping coaster, whose perfectly cylindrical loop created G-forces so intense that it almost guaranteed riders would suffer whiplash among occasional other injuries. Cannon Coaster, a ride designed with a gap in the tracks that coaster cars would leap. This didn't work as planned. After designers tested the idea with sandbags instead of people, they ended up having to close the gap before the ride's opening. Loop the Loop, a very similar ride to Flip Flap Railway, just with 2 loops this time. This was said to be the first truly, quote, safe looping coaster, using an elliptical shaped loop, thus eliminating the strain on passengers' necks. Pikes Peak Railway, a first of its kind, whose building was meant to resemble a mountain. A ride that cost a reported $100,000, which is insane for 1904 when it was built. And of course, we have the scenic Spiral Wheel. This spiral coaster tilted its entire frame as the coaster car made its way around the track. This has to be the most dangerous coaster I have ever seen. And I'm kinda glad this one isn't still around today, because I definitely would have had to ride it for this video. These were just some of the 50+ coasters that have existed at Coney Island parks in the past, but sadly, only one stands the test of time. So whatever happened to the others? To answer that burning question, you may have to look into the heated rivalry between these parks that I alluded to earlier. During its peak popularity in the early 1900s, Coney Island was split into 3 major parks: Luna Park, Steeplechase Park, and Dreamland. Each had their own signature attractions and aesthetic to separate themselves from the others. Luna Park, which actually still exists today just in a different location and under new ownership, was by far the frontrunner when it comes to decor and atmosphere. If you've been to any carnival or even taken a late night stroll down Main Street USA at Disneyland, you will have seen Luna Park's influence on theme parks. The iconic look of thousands of light bulbs lining the contours of a building, illuminating in a fairy tale-esque feel, was started here at Luna Park, drawing huge crowds to the park, especially at night, which was very necessary considering the massive electric bill they were sure to be receiving. Steeplechase Park, known for their signature horse ride, actually had close ties to Luna Park, as Luna Park's founders Fred Thompson and Skip Dundee had previously worked with Steeplechase on a few attractions. But after the two creatives saw that they could easily be doing this on their own, they left Steeplechase and its founder George Tillieu in the dust. Although Steeplechase Park is no more, you could find its mascot prominently at modern-day Luna Park, as this iconic caricature of Tillieu will be found on a coaster named the Tickler. One ride here at Luna Park that maintains this very similar aesthetic to what Coney Island in general used to be is the Tickler, which is a wild mouse spinning coaster, a steel coaster, that are known to be some fairly rough rides, not for shakeability, but because you're just spinning a bunch. You might see other rides like this all around the United States, whether it be at a Six Flags park. I think they have a ride called Ragin' Cajun at a bunch of their different locations, or Primeval Whirl over at Disney's Animal Kingdom, RIP, that did close recently in Dinoland, USA. And I guess it's time to get tickled. Let's go ride the Tickler.
Oh my God, I'm not ready for this. This is a lot taller than I thought it was. This is actually not as bad as I thought it would be. Here it goes, here it goes, here it goes. Oh!
Complete false advertisement. I was not tickled one bit on the Tickler. It was a very, very rough ride. I don't know, maybe not worth the $8 I paid to be on there. By the way, ticketing prices, it's about $1 per ticket. All of them range from probably around $5 to maybe $10 to ride. So that leaves us with one last park, Dreamland, the last of the three parks to open. Dreamland put an emphasis on live entertainment and immersive theming rather than focusing on big attractions. A large portion of the park was meant to resemble Venice. This was one of the first examples of an immersive recreation of an already existing city in a theme park. Another first for Coney Island was Dreamland's Human Zoo attraction, where guests would pay money to see these so-called ethnological expositions that's goal was to emphasize the supposed superiority in Western society. This was extremely racist and a horrible thing to do, but unfortunately was par for the course at the time. Now, I don't want to say that karma had its way, but Dreamland was also the shortest running major park in Coney Island history, opening in 1904 and burning to the ground in 1911, after sparks from a breaking light bulb fell into a bucket of hot tar, sparking a fire that quickly spread to nearly every one of the park's wooden buildings. There were no human casualties in this fire, but some exotic animals' lives were lost, while others escaped their enclosures and roamed the boardwalk before getting captured. Oddly enough, this was the third major fire to take place at Coney Island amusement parks, and it wouldn't be the last. A few years prior, in 1907, Steeplechase Park was destroyed in a fire, but the very next day, owner George Tillieu put up a sign that read, "Admission to the burning remains, 10 cents." Thereafter, the park was quickly rebuilt and continued regular operation until it caught fire once again in 1932, and once again in 1939. Luna Park suffered a fire in 1944, destroying half the park, which led to the closure of the whole park in its original state. At this point, you'd think the state of New York would issue the installation of fire hydrants every 20 feet on the boardwalk, but that didn't happen. Although many of these fires had probable cause, there has been a lot of speculation that arson was a possibility, with reports citing foul play, intentionally dropped cigarettes, and more. Although if any of the rival amusement parks were to be at fault in these fires, it would be an extremely risky tactic. Not only because arson is extremely illegal, but these fires could very well spread to all three parks if bad enough. Kind of a horrible idea if you ask me, but after all, this is the cutthroat business of cotton candy and carousels. Among the historic firsts that Coney Island is known for, the hot dog has to be the most iconic. As the story goes, in 1867, German immigrant Charles Feltman began serving Red Hots from his cart on the island. Many years later, the boiled sausages were adopted by multiple restaurants, including Nathan's, established way back in 1916. What is a trip to the boardwalk without stopping at the famous Nathan's hot dogs? What is touted as the original hot dog, almost 100 years of history. Actually, sorry, over 100 years of history. We gotta try one of these glizzies.
As for the love of theme parks, resident glizzy expert, I knew this obviously had to be a stop. This is such an iconic spot. The Nathan's hot dog eating contest, which is actually happening in a couple of days, a couple of weeks. We're not too far out from the hot dog eating contest. Should we have our own hot dog eating contest?
If I did not eat so many bagels this morning, I would. So I was informed that I am cheating. This is not a classic Nathan's dog, even though the packaging says Nathan's. I just got ketchup on a hot dog. And as someone from Chicago that doesn't like Chicago dogs, why would you get anything else? I don't know. Oh my God. You know when people say a hot dog snaps? That was like the loudest snap I've heard ever.
As you can see from my box o' goodies, I couldn't just settle on one thing from Nathan's like Ryan. I got a plethora of items, starting with the chili cheese dog. I already took a bite. I don't know if I've ever had a chili cheese dog before. I usually like just plain glizzies, but it was pretty good. This is definitely numero uno though. Sauerkraut, spicy brown mustard, delicious. And then I got some cheese fries. I actually haven't had one yet.
These are good. One interesting fact about the modern-day Luna Park is that they actually filmed a few movies here, some fairly recently. If you happen to see the movie If, starring John Krasinski, and I think he's directing it as well, one of the main plot points of that movie is that they come here to Luna Park and they enter a secret door I think it's that one over there, inside of this swing ride, and there's a spiral staircase down into this like secret world. And I don't know. I don't think it actually exists. Maybe I'll ride this and try to see if it's actually there. Do you think I should try to ride this one?
No.
Okay. Some other films you might recognize that were either filmed or storyline-wise take place here at Coney Island are The Wiz. This 1978 musical starring Michael Jackson was filmed almost exclusively in New York, including a scene introducing the Tin Man where the Cyclone was used as a backdrop. More recently, Men in Black 3 actually used Coney Island as a major part of its story, including the origins of Frank the Pug, and had multiple action sequences filmed on location here. From 2015, the Oscar-nominated film Brooklyn, and I've actually seen this one, filmed a single beach scene on location. And the film Wonder Wheel from 2017, starring Justin Timberlake, Kate Winslet, and Portillo's Wall Decor Hall of Famer Jim Belushi, which honestly is probably the coolest to watch for any fan of Coney Island or theme park history. Almost every single outdoor scene of this movie is shot on location and uses Coney Island as a powerful storytelling tool through the lives of the characters. The centerpiece of the set being, of course, the iconic centerpiece of the whole boardwalk area in general, the Wonder Wheel. If you're at all familiar with the Wonder Wheel, this is a legendary Ferris wheel that was the first ever to have these swinging cars, and it still stands here to this day. I got Kristen to go on with me, and we're gonna go do this, right?
I genuinely, this might make me really sick. I really don't want to do it, but I feel like since we're here in Coney Island, I have to. I'm scared though.
She won't do the California Adventure one. If you watch this channel, you know Disney has a version of this over in California, and we were told it's different. I don't know if better or worse.
Yeah, the reason I'm going is because the guy convinced me. He said it's not as bad as the one in DCA, so I hope he's right.
So we've made it onto the Wonder Wheel. Kristen, how are you doing so far?
It's definitely not as bad as DCA, but it also definitely doesn't help that we literally just ate.
Okay, so I have been told that this next slide here, or at least one of these coming up, look at this. Holy oh my God.
Oh my God. It's like the Skyliner at Disney.
Yes, it's like they're throwing you out. Look at this. It's like we're supposed to be chucked off the side of this Ferris wheel. This is insane. Who willingly does this?
I'm holding on for dear life.
Who is doing this that is not on doing content or anything? Like, one thing I will say is that it does give you great views of the rest of Coney Island, all the rides and stuff. You see all the way over there, It's like the parachute drop one. That one is currently not running. I'd be remiss not to mention some of the other relics of Coney Island past that still stand today. The tower I mentioned is the former parachute jump, a ride constructed for the 1939 New York World's Fair that was then moved to Steeplechase Park, where it lived out the rest of its days. Since closing in the 60s, it has gained landmark status and is now permanently fixated within Coney Island's skyline. Thunderbolt, a classic wooden coaster that was left abandoned for nearly 20 years, was unceremoniously demolished in 2000. But as a tribute, 14 years later, a steel coaster by the same name was built in its place. In the boardwalk's later years, a small park by the name of Astroland was built. Astroland's only remnant is its former icon, a massive rocket which is currently on display in the Dino's Wonderland area of Coney Island. After the insane amount of bizarre attractions and sideshows I discovered from Coney Island's past while researching for this video, I am extremely glad that this is all that's left. Of course, I can't say a statement like that without showing some of what I found. An Elephant Hotel, this iconic piece of Coney Island architecture sat 122 feet tall and was home to a hotel, but did turn into a brothel before inevitably burning to the ground. Lilliputian. This opening day attraction at, shocker, Dreamland was an experimental community constructed as a half-scale replica of 15th century Nuremberg, Germany. Residents of this community consisted of 300 little people recruited from all four corners of the continent. Most came from various World's Fairs and traveling circuses. If that wasn't entertaining enough, you could pay a quarter to walk a line of baby-size incubators in the premature infant exhibit. Coney Island also had an interesting lineup of, quote, disaster dramas. These were reenactments of tragedies like the eruption of Vesuvius or the Johnstown flood, a disaster that claimed over 2,000 lives in Pennsylvania just 14 years prior to its opening. Or how about the Galveston hurricane that claimed between 6,000 and 8,000 lives just 4 years prior to its opening? Ooh, yikes. Dreamland aimed to set themselves apart as the more pure theme park compared to the others. Opening attractions like Creation, a moving panorama depicting the Book of Genesis, as well as this massive statue of an angel at the park's entrance, which I'm sure drew more than just the religious crowd because boobies. Oh god. To help balance out the church service attraction they just rode, guests could head over to Hellgate. For only a nickel, Coney Island's Dreamland visitors could go to hell. Via boat ride, that is. I'm sure for the early 1900s, this spooky ride was absolutely terrifying. Ooh, I'm so scared. Too bad it doesn't exist today, but actually, you know what still does? Spook-O-Rama. Are you familiar? Well, this dark ride, Spook-O-Rama, opened here at Wonder Wheel Park all the way back in 1955. This is actually one thing that I saw on TikTok previous to coming here when I was doing some research. This is a classic dark ride attraction that's on a track. The one unique thing about the ride vehicles themselves is that the walls of the ride vehicles are supposed to go up like above standard eyesight. I know I'm taller, so I'll probably be able to see over them, but that's to like hide your view from the scares that are coming around. So far, the decor from the outside is very, very Spirit Halloween. I'll leave it at that. I don't wanna, we're on a boardwalk. I'm not expecting Haunted Mansion level, like there's no Hatbox Ghost here. There's more, you know, $50 yard animatronic ghosts here.
It say welcome foolish mortals over there.
It said, wait, it said what? It said welcome foolish, show me. Where is this? Yep, there it is. I don't know if this is licensed or not, but welcome foolish mortals to Spook-O-Rama. I don't know if you...
It's so funny going by. These doom buggies look hilarious when in motion going by. I can't wait to ride either.
They look like they're on skateboard wheels.
They do. It literally, oh my god.
Can you hear this ride vehicle? I'm a little scared now. It's just pitch black. No wonder they said we could film on air. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh, I do see something coming up. Oh my god! That just like assaulted me. This ride is just as old as Disneyland Park, and it 100% feels like it. About 45 seconds into this indoor dark ride portion of it, we got hit with this gust of wind that sounded like this. Literally a gunshot, and no wonder why they don't let people wear hats on this ride. Right after that, what did you say, Kristen?
I think I probably said, oh shit, I'm actually scared. Genuinely so scared, like I'm not even kidding. Because I think just like not knowing what was coming next, I genuinely had no idea. I was actually really kind of scared. Like, I don't know.
Oh my God.
Imagine if we rode alone, which we almost did. I would have been dying in there.
One added thrill of this ride is the fact that the TikTok that I saw previously to coming here, there was apparently a team member inside of the ride, like in there, scaring people. And I didn't know for sure if that was a thing. It wasn't on ours, but still, like, I don't know. When it comes to scary things, there's always this sense of like safety. Like you're scared, but you know you're safe. This one, I don't know if I should be, I didn't feel that safe. I don't know, it's just the ride and but I got scared for the first time in forever. Despite all of the countless battles, fires, and changes in ownership, Coney Island is still Coney Island. A much needed getaway from the hustle and bustle of New York City that's just a short subway ride away. Although its current state may be a former shell of itself, I feel like it got rid of the parts that should have been destroyed in the first place, and still holds true to the bits of history that matter. Oh, and some killer hot dogs if you ask me. Overall, I had a really enjoyable time at Coney Island today, but there were a few things that kind of stood out that I think I should definitely be mentioning. First off, Luna Park was absolutely wonderful, very clean areas. For the most part, all the rides are running, very well staffed, but a lot of the common areas in between and some other smaller, like business-owned type areas, it's not the cleanest. Like just a few steps down from the main boardwalk area, which is public property, you're gonna find a whole lot of trash just everywhere. There's not as many sweeps through to pick up all of this trash. We also were not here during the nighttime, which I really wish I could have seen. Everything lit up in the lights. Maybe that's a good time to come, but also the crowds are gonna be far worse because everybody will have gotten off work. We're here on a Thursday in June right now, and honestly, it's not that bad other than the heat. I had a pretty good time. The reason we're here in New York City in the first place is not just for Coney Island, but also for Donald's 90th birthday celebration, if you can't tell by my attire. So shout out to Roosevelt's and DisneyStyle for having me out here to celebrate Donald's 90th. You might have seen some of the content from that event on my other socials, which you should be following, by the way. And if you're looking for the vlog of our entire New York trip, you can find that over on our Patreon right now, which, by the way, leaves a perfect opportunity to thank all of my executive producers as well as my pity viewers over on Patreon. Thank you guys so much. We couldn't do without you. Okay, we'll see you guys real soon. Bye.